Now, the National Consumer Commission is urging consumers in possession of the Dark and Lovely Precise Diamond Straight and Shine Relaxer 125mm tub, batch numbers 87UD00 and 87UD01, to immediately discontinue use of the product and return it to the point of sale for full refund. This after an incident in the production led to an imbalance of the active raw material. The manufacturer of Dark and Lovely, L'Oreal, informed the Commission of the recall of the product following complaints from consumers. Head of Enforcement and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission, Prudence Moelwa, spoke to the SABC earlier.
The problem started at the beginning of April when they started getting a lot of complaints. I think about 22 complaints from consumers who were having adverse experiences with the product, where there was increased hair breakage and hair loss. So that then they decided to just do a bit of an investigation, and they found out that there was a problem with the measurements when some of the ingredients of this products were being poured in, and there was an overpouring of certain chemicals that are part of the ingredients of this product. The consumers were complaining of irritation to the scalp as well as hair breakage. So those 22 consumers were complaining that there was more than usual hair breakage as well as the irritation to the scalp. And there is a possibility of also hair loss when consumers use this product, hence the recall itself.
The Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority says racism in the property sector is rife and underreported. It's conducting public hearings into the alleged racism in the property sector. It's already been to at least 5 provinces so far and is in Kimberley and in the Northern Cape today. SABC senior reporter Ulrich Hendriks and senior video journalist Thapelo Kgomotshwan are attending the public hearings.
So the Property Practitioners Regulating Authority, the PPRA, are holding public hearings, and today they are in Kimberley, of course, looking into alleged racism within the property sector. They're saying that this is underreported and extremely rife. They've had a public hearing so far in the Western Cape and in Gauteng, and they say they're quite surprised at what they encounter there. But let's talk to Mfundo Taki. He's the Executive Director here at the PPRA. Mfundo, tell us about the stuff that you uncovered during your public hearings in the Western Cape and Gauteng.
All right. Good morning to you and the viewers. We have conducted the public hearings in respect of the subject matter that you have mentioned, that is racism in the property sector. We have been to Cape Town, Durban, Gauteng, in what is now called Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. We're now here in Kimberley. We are continuing with the same hearings, and we will be moving to other provinces as well, because we need to ensure that we cover the breadth and the length of South Africa. All right. Thus far, what we have been able to establish is that there's a lot of concerns, and they stem mainly from, even though I know that what triggered these hearings is the fact that there was a racism or an alleged racism incident in the Western Cape, whereby a prospective tenant who's of African descent saw an advert online, expressed an intention to hire this property, and then he had an arrangement with an estate agent at the time to view the property. And then when that occurred, that is, the viewing was about to take place, when they met, the agent apparently realized that this person that she had been liaising with is black. And then she mentioned that the landlord has got a particular preference in terms of race. She does not want black tenants in her property. And then she then mentioned that no, the property is then not available. That then incensed this gentleman. And then it was all over the social media, and then it was eventually brought to our attention. After the matter was brought to our attention, our CEO then instructed a team to go to Cape Town and do an investigation. That team, which included myself and one of my colleagues, went to Cape Town. We interviewed the complainant, and then the estate agencies that employed this lady who was assisting this gentleman. And then from the engagement that we had, it occurred to us that indeed, this incident did take place, and that more needed to be done.
Tell us about the testimony that you've heard in those areas. I believe that some of the estate agents also said that they were the victims of racism.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that they've mentioned is that if you work for a particular estate agency, it's a white estate agency, and you happen to be black, one of the things that their principals will tell them is that they should not go to areas where it's mostly affluent and it's mostly populated by white people. They are just simply told to go to the townships, where there are people who look like them, something like that. And this is something which is very serious, and these agents are really incensed. I mean, it's a concern because they are deprived in terms of their ability to earn an income, because now in affluent areas, that the commission is quite high because the values of the property are quite high compared to the townships. So yeah, that's one of the issues amongst many.
On the other side of the coin, if I own a property, for example, and I would like to rent out that property, do I not have the right to say that I would like this property to go to a family, for example, instead of a single person, or express my desire to rent to a certain person, if it's my private property?
Well, I think individuals do have a right to choose whoever they want to rent the property to. However, we need to understand that we come from a very difficult past, and some practices which are discriminatory are actually outlawed. I mean, in terms of the Constitution, any form of discrimination on the basis of race, nationality, sex, etc., is not allowed. And that has found its way into our code of conduct, which is premised on that provision in the Constitution, which also indicates that any discrimination, is at variance with the code of conduct, and there will be implications if estate agents or property practitioners that will regulate involve themselves in those kind of practices.
At the end of this process, you're looking to compile a report so that you can table it with the Minister of Human Settlements and try to influence legislation. Tell us about the process after the public hearings.
Basically, what is going to happen is that we are going to collate all the points, all the submissions which have been made. I think prior to the physical hearings that we are conducting, we also requested written submissions. So we've got written submissions. Now we're assembling these submissions. I mean, the submissions that we're receiving from the physical point of view. What is going to happen is that we're going to draft a report. This report will then be tabled before our board, that is the board of the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority. Once the board has considered that report and is satisfied that it captures all what we have been requested to do, it will then forward that report to the Minister of Human Settlements. And we believe that she will also interrogate the report and consider it, and then if she's got any questions, maybe she'll be sent back for us to have a look at it and review if ever there's anything to be reviewed. But eventually, we are hoping that it will land itself in Parliament, so that some processes can be taken to establish if ever there's any need for further action to be taken to strengthen the legislation, because yes, the code of conduct is there. It does say that any form of discrimination, as I mentioned earlier, is something which is not acceptable. And now the Parliament will have to deliberate on those issues, because we're going to make recommendations. And then they'll have to indicate if the current regulatory framework has got the necessary sanctions that will have the effect of deterring would-be offenders, or there's something more that needs to be done on top of the code of conduct that we have.
Thank you very much. Mfundi Daki is, of course, from the PPRA. Of course, them conducting public hearings around the country at various provinces. They say they've been in Cape Town, Gauteng, Eastern Cape and KZN, and today, of course, here in the Northern Cape, of course, looking into racism in the property sector, saying that after this process has been conducted, they will then submit a report to the Minister of Human Settlements, hoping that that report will find its way to Parliament and influencing legislation. With that, it's back to the studio.